Today, we're going to show you how to be the best at everything that you do, even the things that you don't like doing. And by showing up and being the best at even the things that you don't like doing, that'll create more opportunities to do things that you really want to do with your life. Check this out. Welcome to the Power of Quiet, giving you the tools to reach for your goals and really succeed in life easily. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification, because what we do here is we show you step by step how to do it and see real world results. Now, I want to highlight today a key lesson from Levenson, a lesson that is very important and very powerful in achieving your goals. Now, in order to get into this, I want to preface it by telling a story about my childhood. You see, a good way to describe me was I was untapped potential, which is just a euphemism for saying I was a lazy slacker. Now, this was really evident in my school record. I was one of those kids that made C's and D's all throughout school. And it wasn't because I was a dummy. I just wasn't interested in it. I was more interested in things that I thought were more fun, or just more interested in being lazy. I just wasn't really into putting effort into that. I just thought, that's just not for me. Now, as I was growing up, my family was really supportive. In fact, my grandmother used to always call me her sleeping giant, to use that terminology from World War II, where they talked about the U.S., when they woke up and entered the war. That's how she talked about me. I was like this dormant force, but just waiting to be tapped sometime in the future. Now, as I was growing up, I was developing a certain self-image, like, oh, poor Chris. He's not living up to his potential. He's not going to really succeed. He's not going to make much in life. He's not going to make a very good life. He's just barely going to get by. And I thought that others were seeing me this way, especially because oftentimes I was comparing myself to my sister, who was a super achiever. Like, she skipped the 8th grade. She skipped the 11th grade. She aced all of her classes. And she knew exactly what she wanted to do. She wanted to be a veterinarian since she was a little girl, and she forged her way and became a very successful veterinarian and opened up her own clinic and did some really great things. And, I felt like, in comparison to her, I'm just a nobody. Now, I decided a couple of times to prove, that isn't the case. If I so decide, I could be just as good as her, just as good as anybody. And I proved it. For 1 or 2 semesters, I focused in and I aced all of my tests. I turned in all of my homework. In fact, I even did extra credit so that in every single class, I made more than 100%. And I did this at least twice. And I just did it to say, look, I can do it too. Get off my back, for others and for myself. Now, I tell you this story for 2 reasons. Number one, as I look back on those particular periods of my life where I buckled down, I focused, I got the work done, and I got really perfect results, those weren't difficult times. They weren't stressful. I don't look back at them as, I was missing out on all the fun that I was slacking and being lazy in order to experience. No. When I look back at those times, they were great. And I remember feeling very alive, very result-orientated, and very driven, very purposeful. I was really showing up. And those were really great times. And also I remember the ego habits that used to dominate me. I set those aside. The habits to procrastinate, the habits to make excuses, and also those dialogues that used to run in my head, like being self-conscious. What do people think about me? You know, am I really going to succeed? Am I going to have a good life? Or am I just, going to, just barely escape being a bum? Those dialogues quieted down in my mind. And I was more positive, more successful. That's how I feel now, looking back at those times in my life. And the second reason why I tell you the story is to highlight a very important lesson from Lester Levenson, where he recommends highly to do everything in your life as a master would do it. In other words, do everything that you're doing to perfection, no matter what it is. Even if you're a ditch digger, to not just do what you have to do just to get by, but really do your best at it. If you're a ditch digger, do the most beautiful, perfect ditches and be great at it. And this is a lesson that if we take on, can really blow apart a big obstacle that keeps us stuck for reaching our goals and really being big and successful in our life. Because most of us, we're doing things or we're in a situation that we feel like we're really not valuing or getting much value out of. Like maybe in the work that we're doing. We're not doing something that's rewarding to us. We're doing things that we feel, well, if I gave it my all, if I really did it perfect, it's just benefiting someone else and not me. And I'm refusing to do that until it's a situation that benefits me. Then I'll really show up, give it my best, and really do things to perfection. But there's a problem with this attitude and this approach. You see, it's something that I touch upon again and again on these videos here. It's this attitude of, well, if it's a situation that I don't like, that I'm refusing to love, be loving in, because it's just a negative situation, my choice is to be negative in this situation until the situation changes. Until it changes to something to my liking, then I'll be loving. Then I'll show up. But there's a problem with this attitude. It's like, how am I going to create positivity by being negative in the meantime? And I'm just sitting around waiting for the situation out there to change, for me to change, for me to decide to be loving, to be positive. You see the flaw in this thinking? And now, you don't have to buy into all of this, spirituality, all these concepts of self-help and creation, and the mind is a creative instrument, and the fact that you can just clear your mind of negativity, think only what you want, and create exactly those things without having to lift a finger to do it. You have to believe any of that stuff. See, you can look at this in a very practical way. You see, they have the expression, practice makes perfect. And perfection takes practice. Now, if you're doing something that you don't deem as worthy of your attention, as worthy of you really stepping up, giving it your best, because, well, it's not benefiting you. Well, what happens when the opportunity arises for something to really benefit you, to really be awesome in your life? But all the while, you're just kind of phoning it in. You're not really showing up. By not taking that practice, when that opportunity to presents itself, how likely are you to really grasp that opportunity if you're not taking practice of really showing up all the time in your life? Probably not. Whereas, if you just take this attitude with everything in your life, I'm going to give it my best. I'm going to love it. I'm going to do everything to perfection, no matter what it is. When an opportunity shows up, don't you think that you'll just easily slide right into it? Plus, if You are in a habit of doing everything to perfection. You're in the habit of always being loving, always showing up, always being present, always being open, always being positive, always being your true self. How likely do you think you're going to create positive opportunities that'll really inspire and create wonderful things in your life? Probably a lot more. So even if you look at this as a purely practical, pragmatic way, it only makes sense. So let's do a little releasing on this. We're going to do a little bit of work, experiential work, so you could see how to do this and how you can really get positive results and make a change in your life here. All right, so think about something that you're doing in your life right now, that you're just kind of phoning it in. Like you're doing it because you have to do it, but let's face it, you're not giving it your all. It could be anything. It could be in the work that you're doing or just in your home life, like taking the children to school. See, maybe you're just kind of going through the motions and it's like this battle every morning. All right, kids, get in the car. We got to go. We're running late, and it's just this tedious thing you have to do every morning, but you got to do it anyway. Why not have an intention to really be present and have a really positive experience taking the children to school? So even if they're grumpy, even if they don't want to go, the attitude is, hey, I'm going to be a positive influence anyway. I'm going to be bright. I'm going to say, hey, kids, let's go. Let's have a great time and let's really have a wonderful journey to the school. Even if it's your attitude, why not step up and be a leader, right? So maybe it's a situation like that. Maybe, it's something that you see yourself having to do every day in your work, and you're waiting for your work to change. You're waiting for the right opportunity to come along for you to get a better job or start your own business. But if you have this attitude of, well, I'm just going to wait for it to happen before I step up and be positive, when's it ever going to happen? Now, also, look at this. This is very clear and simple here. The only thing that's really stopping you from giving your all anyway is just a feeling. See, you just have feelings about the stuff that you're doing right now. It's boring. It's tedious. It's not important to me. It's not beneficial to me. It's only doing it for somebody else. Notice you probably have a feeling about that. Check this out. Just close your eyes for a moment and put your head down toward your stomach or chest. You see, from the neck up, all it is just a recording and playback machine. You notice that? All those thoughts that you have are just problematic thinking, stories about past failures, stories about things that you still haven't achieved yet, things that aren't working in your life. And your mind has a habit of just repeating those same negative stories again and again and again. And as long as you keep these stories in your head, it really makes it difficult to really see a clear path about what you really want to create. It's keeping you stuck in the past. And from the neck up, it doesn't erase any of these stories. But where you can erase them and open yourself up to receive and see new, clear opportunities is by focusing in below your neck, in your stomach or chest. This is your feeling center. And this tells you a lot when you pay attention to it. All right, so close your eyes. Put your head down towards your stomach or chest. And think about this thing that you're doing that you're not so excited about doing. And you might notice a feeling shows up in your stomach or chest, like a clenching, clutching feeling. Sometimes maybe even like a sinking, lacking feeling. You notice that? Also, you might notice that it's like a certain feeling of resistance, like a pushy feeling. Oh, this thing, I don't like it. I don't want to do it. You notice that? And really, it's just as simple as just a contraction. And wherever it is that you feel it, you might feel it like right here in your chest or a little bit lower, down in your gut, in your stomach. Right in front of that, open up an imaginary window or door. Just right in front of that energy. And imagine that energy now moving right on out that door. Just imagine that energy leaving, whatever that looks like to you. You might see it as light moving out the door, or smoke, bubbles, whatever. Just imagine that energy just going right on out that door. And even more. And just watch that energy leave. It's just energy moving right on out the door. There's nothing good about it. There's nothing bad about it. It's just energy leaving out the door. And let it leave even more. And 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 let that energy leave even more. And even more. And notice how you feel now. Just notice if you feel a little bit lighter. Feel a difference? And this is showing you that you're moving out of the realm of negativity into positivity. And this also shows you that you've been holding on to that negativity. And by holding on to that negativity, you've been covering up the positivity. That positivity has been inside of you all along. That it already exists. That positivity isn't anything that you need to add to yourself. It's already inside of yourself, covered up by the negativity. And by moving that energy out, that clutching feeling, what's being revealed is a positivity that's already inside of you. And this is the inspiration. This is the force that attracts new opportunities, that attracts your goals, your dreams in life. And it's up to you to clear out the negativity so you can attract more of what you really want. Now, also, take a look at this situation, this thing that you're doing. And notice if you're judging it. Like it's a pain in the butt. It's tedious. It's boring. I don't like to do it, but I have to do it anyway, right? I have to do this work. I have to do my job. I don't like it, but I got to do it. And I'm waiting around for something better to come along. Or if it's just something that you're doing, as a daily task, anything that you're doing where you're just not really engaged in it, not really showing up, you're just phoning it in. Take a look at your thinking about it. Notice these things, you're disapproving of them. And you're right into this classic habit of saying, well, I'm going to be negative until the situation allows me to be positive, until it's a situation that I agree with, that I like. Then I'll be positive. But how am I going to really create or attract positivity if I'm deciding to be negative in this now moment? So take a look. See if you have any judgments about anything that you have to do. See if you're disapproving of it. Now, by disapproving of it, is that changing anything? Is that helping you? And does that feel good, disapproving of it? And who's the one who's doing that? You're doing it, right? Now, if you're doing it, and it's not creating anything positive, It's just keeping you stuck in a situation that you don't like. You're having to do it anyway. Why make your situation miserable? It's up to you. So it's your decision. I'm going to be positive and loving, or I'm going to be negative and disapprove of what's going on. Now, which do you prefer? Well, I'm assuming you're preferring to be positive. Now, it's up to you. If you're doing it, if you're disapproving of it, now can you just make a choice to turn that around? Could you let go of disapproving of it? Why not? Just because. And could you let go of disapproving of it a little bit more? And could you let go of disapproving of it a little bit more? And could you let go of disapproving of it even more? And could you let go of disapproving of it even more? And could you let go of disapproving of it even more? And could you let go of disapproving of it even more? And it's just your decision, yes or no. It's that easy. Could you let go of disapproving of it even more? And even more. And even more. And notice how you feel. Doesn't that feel better? Don't you feel lighter, like when you let that energy out of the door? And again, this is showing you're moving in the right direction and you're opening up to the positivity that's already inside of you, all the power that's already inside of you. Now let's really wake this power up. Let's step on the gas now. Now, whatever the situation is, even if it's uninspiring, even if it's tedious, can you decide to love it anyway? Even if it's something that you're doing that if you put your best into, it's going to benefit somebody else, why not put your best into it anyway? You see, don't do it for them. Do it for you. Because if you're just being lazy, you're just phoning it in, not really showing up, giving it your attention, then you're deciding in those moments not to be present, not to really be the authentic you. And it's only you who you're hurting by doing that. So seriously, don't do it for anybody else. Do it for you. This thing that you're doing, could you give it right now just simply some love and approval? We'll start there because positive doesn't hurt anything. Could you give it some love and approval? And could you give it some more love and approval? And could you give it some more love and approval? And some more. And could you give it even more love and approval? And even more. And even more. And even more. And even more. Could you love it even more? And a little bit more. And how does that feel? Just notice how you feel. Do you feel more empowered? More unencumbered? Lighter? Freer? Easier? Now, can you just make a simple decision to really show up and have an intention to whatever it is that you're doing, that it's going to be the best thing that you've ever done? Just make a decision. Just take that position for a moment and notice how that feels. Doesn't that feel more energized, more powerful, positive, and loving? And who's benefiting from that right now? Just by making that decision, you're not even taking any action right now, just making the decision. You're benefiting you. You're lifting your energy. And what's wrong with that? Now let's get really practical here. You see, if you decide to do everything to perfection, no matter what it is, every single thing that you're doing, look at what you're really making the decision to do. You're making the decision to be present, to be in the moment all the time. Not just in the moments where you're doing things that you agree with, But you're doing this activity of being present 24/7. And when you make a decision to do everything like a master, what are you really holding in mind? Acting like a master. And that changes your picture of you. See, just like when I was a kid, I had a very limited self-image based on my habits. This poor Chris story. He's not going to amount to much in life. And I had projections that other people were judging me that way. And that was like my whole worldview, my story, until I proved it wrong to myself. My ego isn't right. I can do whatever I want. I can do it to perfection. So you see, this changes your whole picture. Now you see yourself as a master. You see now everything around you in your world as an exercise of perfection. And if that's how you start tuning how you look at things, it's going to increase and hasten your growth to being a master, to being unlimited, to being free. And this is why this is such an important lesson that Lester gave us. Do everything as a master would do it. Do everything to perfection. And if you're ready to step up and take this challenge from Lester, I invite you to join me for the perfect opportunity to be a master. Join me in the Conscious Creation Master Course, where we're going to spend 6 weeks practicing using very provable, experiential methods and techniques to focus on your goals, to realize your goals, and to prove to yourself you are a conscious creator. You are a master. So I'll put a link to it here. Check it out and join us. It starts in January. And I invite you right now to start looking at the things that you're doing, that you're just kind of doing it without really putting yourself into it, and seeing what that costs you to keep doing things that way. How are you going to really move forward in life doing things that way? Where are you going to end up at? If you really want to make a change, it starts with your attitude. It starts right now. So start making this practice of doing things to perfection, really showing up, giving it your best, and watch what happens. All right? So let me know what you experience. If you see some changes, if this makes sense to you, drop me a comment. If you have any questions, leave me a comment. I love interacting with you in the discussion below. And most of all, keep releasing, keep moving up, keep realizing who you authentically are, who you really are. Not what your ego tells you, but what you feel inside. And until next time, happy releasing. I'll see you on the next video.